Jesus has a funny relationship to food. It's not quite an eating disorder, but he does have a disordered way of eating practices that we find again and again. While visiting with Mary and Martha for what is a famously late-running dinner party, he chastises the one actually doing the cooking and praises the loaf about for sitting at his feet. As the cook of my household, I have things to say about this. When confronted with a few measly loaves and just a couple fish, he miraculously stretches the feast to 5,000, no problem. This is the very antithesis of family hold back that maybe in your house when extra guests or your niece's new boyfriend shows up unannounced for dinner. Wine never runs out when Jesus is around. And famously, he takes a loaf of bread and a cup from the middle of the Seder table and transforms them into symbols of his great love. These two most common pieces of food become symbols of life and death and resurrection, so that all may remember him with the commonest things possible, with just bread and some juice. You could do this with your tuna fish sandwich and some Welch's on any given Tuesday. Fig trees get cursed and wither and die. That's some aggression. He picks up grains on the Sabbath and gets chastised by the religious leaders. And Peter's mother, just out of her sickbed, prepares a feast for her son and his friends who didn't say that they were coming but arrived nonetheless. And nobody offers even a word of, "No, Mom, you shouldn't, let us." We never see Jesus cooking himself or grocery shopping. And speaking of that famous Passover Seder, on the night before he died, Jesus sends two other disciples ahead of him so that they should do the preparations. This man does not like kitchen work. And as for all the common ways that food binds us together, all the ways that we get to know people doing dishes and standing in kitchens late at night, Jesus doesn't participate. Now, long before the church decided there should be this thing called Lent, long too before Jesus was alive, there was another prophet who had things to say about food. And today's reading from the book of Isaiah is counter to what so many of us have been taught to think of as appropriate for behavior during Lent. It's a weird text for the middle of Lent, for Lent's discipline and Lent's discipleship and Lent's fasts. Eat what is good, the prophet says, and delight yourself in rich foods. Please note, the prophet does not say eat only fish on Fridays and refrain from sweets. The prophet also does not say to give up something like alcohol or chocolate in order to appear pious, but in truth just hoping that you might slim down a bit before summer. The prophet does not say to segregate the black jelly beans from the rest of the jelly beans in their bags, but you know that's a soapbox I better avoid. The prophet does say, however, to eat what is good and delight yourself in rich foods. And I imagine many of us have no problem following this instruction, indulging in this commandment, happily having a second piece of cake because, well, the Bible told us to. But in this invitation to richness and sweetness and lusciousness and decadence, there is a caution and a lesson in the ways of how we consume our meals. It's almost like an ancient Near Eastern version of how French women don't get fat. 5 years ago this Sunday, we weren't here. We had just entered what we thought would be a momentary pause, quarantined in our homes for what was just going to be a couple weeks. We gathered for worship as best we could. We cooked our own food as best as we could. We hunkered down and we cried and we banged our pots and pans out the windows and we made music and we tried to tame the children as best as we could. We started ordering from Amazon with abandon. Anything from any store, anywhere in the world, anybody that had anything to sell that could get here, we ordered. Anybody that was open and shipping, we were all over it. Packages arrived, cardboard started mounting up. What else was there to do? It wasn't just convenient, it was necessary. At-home retail therapy this was, and who could blame any of us? Many of you have heard me say that during that time, grocery stores were my places of solace in those early weeks of the pandemic. I would go to my local store once a week with the cloth mask my husband had made for me, covering my face and following those silly directional arrows about which way to go up and down the aisles that seemed to baffle pretty much everyone else. It was a weekly private moment to lament, alone. This was my time. While we were all attending to each other's grief and of those who had it worse than us, all the rest of the week, my laments in grocery stores were private. It was mine. And yet I noticed from time to time that I wasn't the only one whose eyes were wet and red, standing there rationing lettuces and trying to make sure that I wasn't taking the last of any one item from the shelf. Food became slower, suddenly slower. Everything took more time. Food was slower then, it's gotten faster now. Shopping was slower then, shipping slower then, waste and rubbish slower then, and the planet got greener. Remember this statistic? This is one of my favorite things to remember. When we gave the humans all a big time out, the environment, which is to say creation, started repairing itself. Talk about resurrection in the midst of death. Our bio-ecosystems started cleaning themselves up from the mess we carelessly make. We've forgotten this 5 years later, but it's true. And now we've retained so many of those habits we had for getting by, and it's only just further fueled our mass consumption and our impulsive tendencies. Technology now makes it so easy to buy everything we need and most everything that we don't with just a click of a button. Facial recognition connects my thumbs, yeah, let's get that, directly to my debit card, that connects to my bank account, that connects directly to the landfill and the dust from which it has all come and to which it will one day go again. While abroad recently, I did my best to look for some little thing to bring back for my nephews or for my husband. But what was the point? Sure, that Muji was bigger than my local Muji, but the stores were all the same. They had all the same stuff. And sure, there were plenty of billed as authentic stuff in the bazaars that I could have gotten, little trinkets, but what there wasn't also available here? And what there was made exactly wherever it is that whatever it is here is made as well too. It's all coming from the same place and all going to the same place. Global commerce is great, but it has its downside when it comes to global travel and discovering wonders and uniquenesses that can't be discovered elsewhere. Another example, on a flight home, the nice people at United Airlines gave me a little pouch of the most delicious gummy bears I'd ever had, and yet I'd never heard of. By the time I landed, I had found them in midair, and here on the ground, a box was already en route to my apartment. Advertisers have never had it this easy. I don't need to remember a thing. I don't need a catchy jingle. I don't need a catchphrase. If you show me something that you like after church, we can put it in my Amazon cart before you're even out the door, and it will be there. We can order it right here and now. So fast, so convenient, so easy to consume this richness and to indulge in all that feels good, at least for the moment. Technology has revolutionized how we shop and whose pockets we're enriching. E-commerce has many advantages, but it comes with a cost for us, a cost for the local stores we're no longer visiting, a cost for the planet and landfills, a massive profit for cardboard manufacturers. Boy, did I miss that opportunity. And so many, many other things. These costs are not irreversible. They are a trend. They are not inevitable. They require our consciousness if we want to change them. Turns out, there is a return policy for what we've consumed. there is a turning that this Lenten series on technology and the ways we consume it and the ways it consumes us that presents some other options. Back when we were planning Lent this year, and I was talking with the program team and our communications people about what was in my head, we began with that age-old chestnut of, what are you giving up for Lent? I told them I had the shell, at best, of an inkling that I wanted to think about discipleship in some very 21st century ways. I told them that I thought we might talk about technology and how it has been rather untheologized. I talked about wanting to confront the ways we can live more fully and approach our technology patterns more consciously so that, in Isaiah's words, we may live. That's what the prophet says, so that we may live. What could be more Lenten than that, I thought. Ray is one of our communications consultants, and they were joking around with me and pushed, yeah, but Will, what are you giving up? Are you giving up anything? And I said, no, that's not my pattern. But that if I were, and if I thought it was even possible, what I and all of us, any of us, each of us, what we should really give up for 40 days is Amazon. What if this were a fast from instant gratification, and instant expense, and mounting debt, and instant waste? And then I thought, no, I don't have time for that. But in the same vein, Pandora's box was now open. I thought, well, if there's a week of no Amazon, might there also be a week of no DoorDash or Seamless or Fresh Direct? Was there a week? You can see I've already pivoted away from the impossibility of a 40-day season. I've gotten it down to just a week. What if there was a week when we had to dig out those pandemic cookbooks I know we all made? What if there was a week where we remembered that a fig tree needs care and time, and that water and wine and milk, they should be free, bought without money, fully satisfying, and tended to with care for ourselves and each other and our planet, not some oligarch's profits. When it comes to the difficulty of following Jesus, this right here is where the Tesla rubber hits the road. Today is the third Sunday of Lent. In the first week, we helped sharpen our focus on the distinctions of how we consume media, news, facts, and stories. In the second week, we took those headlines and applied our digestion of them to how we share news, facts, and stories, particularly through our social channels. This week, this third week, we pay attention not to what is being served up to us, but to what we ourselves are ordering up. And there's still time. So it's the third Sunday of Lent. We're not quite halfway there yet, but we are getting closer to Holy Week. The days are lengthening. It's a blessing. And so if you're brave, and if you're a better late than never kind of person, looking for a challenge for the back nine of Lent, if you've from time to time been interested in giving things up for these 40 days, but you never quite have and always get to this point wondering if you still should, perhaps you want to give up online shopping, particularly from Amazon, for the rest of the journey. There's an asterisk here. Remember, Sundays don't count. What you do on Sundays do not count toward the 40-day fast. Sundays are always days of resurrection. So save all your shopping for Sundays. But come to church first and then go away and think about what you really need to buy that day. I call this Lenten challenge Amazoff. And perhaps it could be the lightening of your suitcase that you need for whatever it is that is holding you down this Lent. Perhaps stop buying everything you think you need in an instant and find what gifts of God may come to you when you make room in your suitcase for something new. Taking things out of our lives is hard. Letting go of old ways of being that hold us down is hard. If you keep dragging them, they will drag you down. If you let go of them, who knows what will come? lightness, for sure. Some of you may think this is a challenge you're ready to go off and do, and others, perhaps many of you, are thinking I'm a tyrant at this moment for even suggesting it. So here I will remind you that perhaps I am, but I am a kind and benevolent preacher. I didn't give you this challenge at the start of the journey. I'm bringing it to you today, nearly midway through. If the road itself is weighing you down, and if you're finding yourself needing to offload a few things more to make it through the home stretch, take this as an example. Take it for what it is, only and ever an invitation to consider, and maybe you want to make it your practice. Maybe you can do that. And if you do, tell us all about it. And for all the rest of us that don't think we have time to wander around Duane Reade ringing those stupid little buzzers to get assistance in the deodorant aisle, and then a separate buzzer in the razor blade aisle, and then another one in the pharmacy section, because no one can be trusted to pay for the things that they take off the shelves anymore, we'll just order it online and be done with it. I don't have any more time. I have a gentler approach. For the rest of Lent, it's less than a month. Keep a running list. A little tally or a spreadsheet, if you're like me, of how much you're consuming. Bring your consciousness to your consumption. How much are you consuming, ordering, and throwing out, packaging supplies included? Lenten discipleship is about raising our whole selves to consciousness and preparing ourselves to live as Easter people, resurrection people. This means don't judge yourself. That's the hardest part of this. Don't judge yourself as you move to a second and third piece of paper or another spreadsheet. Just notice yourself. Maybe don't change your habits at all just yet. This isn't a New Year's resolution. You don't have to do it all today. But perhaps there's a way to think of our online shopping addictions of as Jesus spoke of the fig tree in Luke's gospel we heard this morning. If it bears good fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down. Practically speaking, this may look a lot like saying a short prayer each time you're standing in your kitchen fighting with a pair of scissors, breaking down those boxes. Or pulling a forgotten about takeout container from the back of the fridge and quickly throwing it out. Maybe the prayer is simply this: O Lord, was it worth it?